I've been shooting with a Canon Rebel for a long time. It's a good camera, not a state-of-the-art camera, but it works well. Unfortunately, it stopped working so well, and I needed to find a replacement for the Canon Rebel. I did a little bit of research as to what my best options are, and I decided that for me, the best option, the one that makes the most sense, is a Canon R50. And so if you're in a similar situation where you have a Canon Rebel and you're thinking, what should I upgrade this camera to? Or if you're just interested in the R50, this video might be for you. I'll tell you what my decision process was that led me to the R50, and I'll give you a quick review as to what I like and don't love so much about the Canon R50. Overall, I'll tell you that I think it's a fantastic camera, and I'm really happy with the purchase. So, when my Rebel had a problem, I was faced with the dilemma of what to replace it with or what to do about it. And my first thought was that I could get the camera repaired. But this is an old camera. It's not current technology. It's probably not a good investment to put more money into this old camera. And there's probably not that many places that would be interested in repairing it, and the repair probably wouldn't be that cheap anyway. For the price of repairing it, or thereabouts, I could probably go to a used camera seller and pick up a identical used old body. But that, again, is that a very good investment of money, putting it into technology that's so old? So I thought that is probably not a good move. Now, the other question is, do you need a camera at all? With today's phones, you can get a smartphone that has a fantastic camera in it. Some of the smartphone cameras produce results that are almost indistinguishable from traditional cameras. So maybe you should take the funds that you're going to put into a new camera and upgrade your phone, or just use your phone if you have a current model phone. Now, for me, I know that that's a non-starter. The form factor of the phone just isn't going to work for me. And for the kind of YouTube videos that I shoot, that's really cumbersome. And so a phone, not for me. But if you just do very casual photo shooting and movie snippets, maybe that's all you need. Now, if money was no object, I'd just say, okay, well, so it is, and get a whole new camera system. And there's a lot of great choices out there. You could look at the Sony A7 series or the Canon R5 or R3. Well, I'd love to buy a whole new camera system, but I know that the results that I would get from it would only be fractionally better than the results I'm currently getting at a much higher price, and I don't have the budget for that. So I want to do a cost-effective upgrade, which would involve retaining as much of my old Rebel system as possible and just replacing the body. I've got a collection of good high-quality lenses that I can use, and I'd rather not replace all the glass because that's a major portion of the price of the camera system. And so I can retain my old Rebel lenses and use them with the new body if I get an adapter ring that will adapt that older style glass to the new body. And the adapter ring is just a mechanical ring that allows you to attach the old lenses to the new body mechanically. There's no glass inside of the adapter, so it doesn't affect the quality of your old lenses at all. And so they'll continue to work as well as they ever have. And so if I choose the correct replacement Canon body and adapter ring, I can use my old accessories, and that's going to be a huge cost savings. The cameras that will work with my glass would be the R100, the R50, the R10, and the R7. The R7 comes in at about $1,500 for the body, and for me, it doesn't offer any really compelling features that justify that price point compared to the lower priced cameras. The R100, the lowest end of the group, lacks some features that I consider to be essential. The primary feature that it lacks is the ability to move the viewfinder away. With this one, the viewfinder screen is articulating, so you can flip it out and move it all around into different directions to make it much easier to do selfies or overhead shots or that sort of thing. And I think that's a critical feature for me. The R100 does not have the flippy screen. It also does not have a touch screen control. So it's really a limited camera. There are other limitations within the R100 that made it fall off of my radar as well. But the lack of a flippy screen or touch screen, nope. So the R100 is off the list. So that narrows the choice down to the Canon R10 or R50. The R10 is the higher end model, coming in at around $1,000. And the R50 is about $300 less. And so the question is, does the R10 have features that are worth an additional $300? And the features that it offers is the ability to record 4K video at 60 frames a second with a crop. And so the crop means that that video is going to appear zoomed in a little bit, kind of like you put a telephoto lens in the camera. And it means that you're not using the entire area of the sensor to pick up video. You're just using a portion of it. And so the output is 4K, but the sensor that's actually picking up the video isn't being completely utilized. So there's going to be most likely some performance degradation in that mode. If 4K 60 was provided at full frame, I might be a little interested, but just a little interested. It's not a format that I really use very much. It would be used for slow motion effects mostly. With the crop, I'm even less interested. So 4K at 60 with a crop on the R10 camera, for me personally, not a big selling feature. Now, both the R50 and the R10 will do 4K video at 30 frames a second, so that's great. The R10 has a recording limit of a couple hours. The R50 has a recording limit time of 1 hour. For me, both of those are plenty lengthy to record any clips that I'm going to record. The other thing that the R10 offers that the R50 doesn't is a larger body physically. The camera's just bigger, and it's got a couple more push-button knob type controls on it. The R50 is a small package, and one of the biggest complaints that people have, including myself, is that it's not really comfortable to hold. I almost find myself holding it with my fingertips. And so the R50 is not a real comfortable camera to hang on to and walk around with all day, especially if you're shooting more photography than video. With video, I tend to set things up and push the go button and just let things be. With photography, I'm more actively working with the camera, trying to adjust my settings to get this shot for that shot to the next. And so I'm not saying that the R50 isn't doable. It's not bad, but it is a pretty small, compact package. You can't really get your hands comfortably around it. If you have any cables attached, any wires attached, like from microphones or video out or anything like that, it makes it even more difficult. And so if you're looking for a camera that you're going to have in your hands for a large portion of the day, for hours, the R50 might not be it. And maybe it's worth stepping up to the R10 just for the more larger, comfortable hand grips to hang on to the thing. But for me, since I shoot mostly video, and most of my camera work is done on a tripod anyway, not a big issue. And the camera can be handheld. It's nothing tragic or super bad. It's just not the most comfortable camera to hold for long periods of time. So I didn't think that was worth dropping an extra $300 on. The R10 also has a little bit more buffering capability. So if you do high-speed photo shoots and do, machine gun with the trigger and just shoot off a bunch of photos, you can shoot a longer sequence in the R10 than you can in the R50. I don't do that kind of stuff very often, so again, it's not an issue for me. Neither one of these cameras, I would say, are burst shot monsters. So if you're doing lots of that kind of work, well, maybe you'd be best served by a more high-end professional type camera that has more capabilities there. And then finally, one more thing, which is a feature the R50 has that the R10 lacks, is the ability to plug the R50 into a computer via USB and either be in a mode where you see this as a disk drive device and you can pull your photos and videos off the camera into the computer, or you can set the camera up to appear to the computer as a webcam. So if you do streaming content, you can plug the R50 directly into the computer and have a top quality webcam. And so that's built right into the R50, and that makes me think that the R50 might be a little bit more modern technology than the R10 actually, in terms of its electronics. Now, you can do the same feature with the R10 with the addition of some software drivers. But with the R50, you don't need software drivers. It's a native Windows device. And so with those differences between the R50 and the R10, and considering the price jump of a few $100s more to get into the R10, I didn't see that the R10 offered enough for the additional price to make it compelling. And the business where I can plug in the R50 to a PC and have it be a streaming webcam without any fuss, I thought that was compelling. So that drove me toward the R50. So I'll give you some overall impressions of the R50. This is not an in-depth, detailed review doing a bunch of analysis and measurements. There are other YouTube photography channels that get deep into that stuff if you're interested. But I'll give you some of my initial impressions since I've gotten this camera and worked with it a little bit. First, I love it. I like it a whole lot. I think it creates tremendously good-looking videos, great-looking photographs. The autofocus is fantastic. It feels really fast. I can take lightning-fast photos and just capture the moment. The Rebel worked really well for that too, but this camera just feels quick, just feels fast. It seems to get quite good battery life, even though the battery is not real large. And because I was coming from a 77D Rebel series to this camera, the batteries that I have carry over. So my old batteries work fine with this camera, and that's a cost savings. I like that. I like the electronic viewfinder. It's clearer to read than it was in the Rebel through the optical viewfinder. So those are some real pluses. I love the conversion ring that I got for converting the old glass to this unit. There are two conversion adapters available. One is about $100, which is just a metal ring that carries the electronics through. The other one is the same ring with a control ring on it that you can adjust. Otherwise, they work identically. But with the control ring, you can go into the software in the camera and attach this control to any function within the camera. So I've got it attached to my aperture. So it's just like an aperture ring on an old lens, and I find that to be a really convenient control. So it's worth the extra money, I think, to get the conversion adapter that includes the ring control. And another great thing about the Canon R50 is that it works well with the Canon app that can be installed on your smartphone or tablet. And with the app, you can download the images from the camera, or you can remotely control the camera with video preview in the app on your phone. And so that is really a cool feature. Now, that app was available for the Rebel series, but I had constant headaches with the reliability of its connectivity, and it just didn't work reliably. However, with the R50, I've had very little trouble. I get the R50 connected to the network, boom, boom, connects right up with the app every time. It's actually a useful tool. So that's a big plus. So the camera works really well. There are some things that I don't love about it, however. And so there are three of them that really come to mind. First is just the size. Like I mentioned, it's pretty compact, hard to get your hands around, easy to accidentally bump the wrong button if you're not careful. I would have preferred to have a camera body that's just a little bigger, which of course would be the R10 option. This is small enough to drop into your bag and make it easy to carry around. There is that, so that's a plus. So it's kind of a plus and a minus. Not a big deal. Another deal is the HDMI output. HDMI output in this camera is micro HDMI, not mini HDMI, so you might need to get a new cable if you're using the connector that was in your Rebel and now you want to use it off of the R50. But on the R50, when you plug in to an HDMI monitor or some HDMI device, it turns off the built-in display in the camera. That's not a deal breaker. It's just a minor inconvenience. With the Rebel, it would keep the internal display operating so you could see it in two places. But with this camera, it turns off the internal displays if you're using an external HDMI output. Okay. Not a big deal, but minor annoyance. And then probably the biggest annoyance with this camera for me is that the memory card and the battery are now located on the bottom of the camera, right down here. On the Rebel, it was off on the side. The camera door to access these opens like this. And the problem is that if the camera is mounted on a tripod, you cannot access the battery or memory card. And that's kind of a problem for me because I'll have the camera mounted on a tripod and work on some project, and every once in a while I'll need to swap out the memory card or the battery. And now I have to remove the camera body off of the tripod in order to access those things. Whereas with the Rebel, I could keep the camera mounted up and just swap out the card or the battery without disturbing my camera position. A thing to be aware of with adapted glass on the R50 is I have the glass from my Rebel camera going through the Canon adapter, and I have the adapter with the control ring on it, which I have attached to aperture control. I think that's great. But if I mount this camera onto a tripod, and the mount of the tripod on the bottom of the camera here is slid forward a little bit, it can interfere with the operation of this control ring. So I need to be a little bit careful of how I mount the camera on the tripod so that the tripod does not interfere with the operation of the control ring on the lens adapter. Not a big deal. It just means I slide the camera forward a little bit, but something to be aware of with adapted lenses on the R50 body. The R50 is a great camera, and it shares a lot of the DNA from the Pro Series cameras that Canon offers. But it doesn't offer all of the features, of course. For example, the R50 does not offer IBIS, in-body stabilization, so there isn't mechanical stabilization built into the camera. It does offer digital stabilization, and you can use stabilized lenses, but I wouldn't expect to see an IBIS feature at this price point in a camera at any rate. Another thing that the R50 does not offer is log profiles for color. It offers the usual Canon excellent looking color science, but it doesn't offer log profiles, which are appreciated by photo professionals who do color grading and post-production afterwards. So by choosing the R50, I was able to retain all of my old lenses and continue using them with the Canon lens adapter. I was able to retain all of my old batteries. And so because of that, this is a relatively low-cost upgrade to get into a modern mirrorless camera that really works well. The things I wasn't able to carry over were my flash unit, because the hot shoe on the R50 is a different communication than the hot shoe on the prior Rebel cameras. And I wasn't able to use my wireless remote control, because the wireless remote control on the Rebels is an infrared control. The one for the R series uses Bluetooth. The Bluetooth remote control is better because you don't need line of sight to the camera. And so the R50 was a great upgrade choice for me, and if you pursue it, I bet it'll be a great choice for you as well. If you're interested in these products, please check out my links below, which will bring you to an Amazon page that has these products. If you choose to pursue them, that supports the channel, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you watching the video, and I especially appreciate if you choose to support the channel by clicking those YouTube buttons such as subscribe and hitting that bell so YouTube notifies you when new content drops. If you've got something to add that contributes to the conversation, I'd love to hear from you, so please add it in the comments below. So thanks again, and I hope to catch you in another upcoming video.